What if the biggest opportunities to strengthen our own communities begin by looking beyond them? Welcome to the Today's the Day Changemakers podcast. Today's guest is Whitney Buckman, founder of Illustra Impact. And I'm joined by returning co-host, Fred Wozniak, founder and principal of Humanics Consulting and Outdoors with Papa. Whitney believes we're at our best when we're locally rooted and globally minded. Truly love that. In this inspiring conversation, she shares how embracing new perspectives, cultures, and experiences expands our thinking, strengthens our leadership, and equips us to create greater impact right where we live. You'll walk away challenged to think differently about community, connection, and why some of our greatest lessons come from people and places far beyond our own backyard. At Today is the Day, we believe connection is the work. Every conversation is rooted in the idea that intentional human connection isn't just a soft skill, it's the foundation for measurable organizational outcomes. Through Connection is the Work, organizations strengthen leadership, build stronger cultures, improve collaboration, deepen customer and donor relations, increase retention, and create lasting impact. If you're interested in learning more about Connection is the Work and bringing it into your workplace and nonprofit organization, please reach out to Jody, Jodi, at todayisthedayliveit.com. And if you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to please subscribe to the Today is the Day Changemakers YouTube channel and follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Today is the Day Live It. You can continue your own changemaker journey with Today is the Day Live It, a collection of leadership insights and personal stories from 31 extraordinary changemakers from California to Uganda. The book is available, and the book's name is Today is the Day Live It, wherever books are sold. So you please go to barnesandnoble.com, walmart.com, amazon.com, target.com, and you can purchase the book there in Kindle version or the paperback. This book also represents the enduring legacy of our dear friend and contributing author, Lenny Dave. His very recent passing has truly been deeply felt by everyone who knew and loved him. Through his chapter, Lost and Found, and his unforgettable reminder that life is a gravy sandwich, Lenny continues to inspire others to find hope, gratitude, and purpose, no matter the circumstance. By purchasing Today is the Day Live It, you're helping us to continue to share Lenny's message and honor the legacy of a remarkable changemaker whose voice will continue to make a difference for years to come. Lenny is greatly missed. And now, let's meet today's changemaker. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Today's the Day Changemakers podcast. I am your host, Jody Hope Grinwald. And as I say every single episode for now, the 6th season, I interview the changemakers, the inspirers, and those who are disrupting the status quo in the best way possible. And I want to, right off the bat, thank the 135 countries, the people in those countries who have downloaded this podcast. So thank you so much. And also right now, I'm super excited because I have a very special guest, but I also have my very special co-host who comes back. He's the only one with the Today's the Day Changemakers jacket. I don't even have one. Fred Wozniak, how are we today?
Oh, doing fantastic. Wonderful. I'm just thrilled to be here with both of you. And a jacket, how many do I have? 5 times. So it's like Saturday Night Live. So I got my jacket. What am I getting?
You're at 7. I think this is
7.
7.
What if I get to 10 then? What's
a hat? I've
a hat?
decided. A hat.
All right.
Reusable cup or a hat. You decide. You'll let me know what you want. It's kind of like, the candy sale at school where, you reach a certain thing and you get a certain price.
Well,
Fred,
I'm working toward the hat. But it's an honor to be here, and great job, Jody. You're just you're change making and connecting change makers from all across the world, and that's what's going to make today special. Because Whitney is doing the same thing, so it's going to be a wonderful hour.
Absolutely. But let's just mention you are the founder owner of Humanics Consulting,
Yes.
and also the founder of the incredible Outdoors with Papa, right? That people can find you all over, right? On
Yes.
Instagram and Facebook. And so I want to make sure we throw that in there now because
Thank you.
You're supposedly retired, but I really think you're way more busy now.
That's the old chapter. This is the new chapter. So
exactly.
I'm busier with full-time fun play.
Mm-hmm. For those listening, you can actually have that. Isn't that incredible? And
Yes.
Fred's a true example of that. So thanks, Fred.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Whitney Buckman, how are you?
I'm good. I'm happy to be here and have this conversation with you both today.
I am so happy to have you here. Let me tell you, Fred has been singing praises and said that this had to happen. So,
Yeah.
Whitney, I cannot wait to hear. But before I get started and we have this conversation, and Fred and I stumble over each other to ask you a ton of questions because I want to know more about you, and he already knows. So it's going to be it's going to be a fight to figure out who's going to ask the question. But I want to just say, Whitney is the founder of Illustra. Is that correct? Illustra
Yep.
Impact. Illustra Impact, a social innovation consultancy that partners with nonprofits, coalitions, and foundations to navigate complex change, helping diverse, sometimes fractured, stakeholder groups build shared understanding of a challenge and co-design strategies people actually champion. Her path started as a bilingual community organizer with Faith in Action, where she led statewide campaigns on immigrant rights and public health. The Grassroots Foundation now shows up in boardrooms. Her work has shaped state policy, a $25 million racial justice investment, and health inequity initiatives like the Camden Coalition's Community Ambassadors Program. There's so much more here, Whitney. I could go on. I know we're missing things, but I'm going to stop there so that we can learn more about you. So welcome to Today's the Day Changemakers.
Thank you for having me, Jody and Fred.
So excited. What I
You're
like to
welcome.
do, and Fred knows this, I always like to go kind of backwards, right? Because where we are now is not where we started. So I want to know something. Growing up, Whitney, were you an outgoing or more of a shy child?
Oh, that's a great question. Um, I grew up in a very outgoing family. So my mom is the oldest of 8 children, and I then was am the oldest of like 20 grandkids. And so we always had people around. I was used to always being surrounded by family, or I grew up on a cul-de-sac where my next door neighbor is still my best friend. And so, we were just constantly outside playing, doing things. So I don't think I really had a choice if I was an outgoing child or not. But it did contribute to later in life needing some more introvert time.
What did you want to be when you grew up?
So I wanted to be the first female president of the United States. Well documented in a class project in 5th grade.
Well, this makes perfect sense why Fred said all the wonderful things about you because, yeah, at 10, you were already, going for office. That's incredible. Amazing.
Yeah.
Fred, you got any,
We
got
can use
any
you.
childhood questions? Got any childhood questions for Whitney while we're on childhood?
We're going to see it happen. We're going to see it happen. The family, it's wonderful to have such a family around. And I have similar 6 aunts and uncles, 8, and just cousins were just, at one time in elementary school, I had a cousin in every single grade and 2 in some grades at the same school from kindergarten through 8th grade. Yeah, it was just, our family. So that whole thing is, and the second thing you said is, as we get more mature or wiser, the introvert time becomes more important. That time to step away. Yeah. So that's interesting. And we'll touch base on that a little bit. So great.
Yeah, definitely. So Whitney, when you went to college, what did you go for?
I studied Spanish and international studies in my undergrad.
And what were you hoping to do with it?
So I chose that path because of some a trip that my family took to Honduras that really inspired me to think more about my brothers and sisters in other countries and their pathways to immigrate. And so my entire college career, I was trying to understand our immigration system and what caused the current state of, at the time, 11 million undocumented immigrants. And so that was really what I focused my Spanish and international studies on, trying to understand the cultures and communities, governments, and kind of push-pull effects of other, specifically Spanish-speaking countries, and studying how things like the European Union could serve as a model when we had NAFTA, and kind of the differences between those international policies and how they were impacting everyday people's lives. And the fact that, my friends that I met in Honduras couldn't come and visit me because of our immigration laws and the expenses along with that.
Yeah, it's been a very interesting time in our world right now with all that you're talking about, and a very sad time as well. And so, just looking at your longer bio, which I didn't get to, which says that you spent 2 years living across 9 countries and visiting more than 80 communities. Can you share? I'm just going to give you a number. Top 3 things you took away from that experience.
Ooh. I think one of the biggest reflections I had was, a principle that I have always kind of thought true, but now include as a value in my work is locally rooted, globally minded. And during that time, I was trying to build a global community, did build a global community, but it really hit home for me why the locally rooted part is so valuable, and how spending 2 years on the road, really no more than 3 months at a time in one location, what that felt like in terms of what community could mean. I had best friends in one city that knew what happened day to day for a month, and then I, had a different friend that was picking up where they left off. And so that idea of, we can have a global community, but it just doesn't replace the kind of connectedness and showing up for connection that happens in local community. That was probably one of my biggest takeaways. The other that it really did for me was, I always thought I was an open-minded person, and then I really rooted among just so many different ways of living life. And a lot of the people who I was connecting with would also identify as digital nomads during that time. And I didn't go out trying to become a digital nomad. I just was taking advantage of the idea of having remote work, and no family of my own at the time. So I was meeting people who had chosen kind of this idea of portfolio careers where, they were investing they had a home in another country that was providing, rental income for them to be living somewhere else. And they had equity in this sort of company, but they were doing consulting or nonprofit work here and building that. So it just really kind of opened my eyes to, you don't have to choose one thing. You don't have to live, in one home in one country. There are just lots of things that it kind of made me rethink what it meant, what kind of life I wanted to have. And then third would be just the tension that I think it was already happening, but I think COVID really accelerated this, which is especially people in the US, but other countries where we earn higher wages. There's been a huge flux into communities where our dollar goes a lot longer, a lot further. So, I spent 9 months out of those 2 years in Colombia. And in Colombia, I could live on about a third of what I could live on in the United States. And it allowed for me to live a better quality of life while I was building my business. But it also raised this tension around, what is that doing to the local economy when there's this huge influx of like foreign money and kind of pockets of people living in places, how it was changing the restaurants and the businesses that were coming to those areas, the affordability of locals to go in there. So kind of just this, and I wouldn't identify as someone in the upper echelons of society that can travel all over the world, but I did have enough, my business was affording me enough income to be able to make that choice. And so just that tension of what is this global economy and this shift towards remote work doing as people kind of no longer are moored to that local community, like I mentioned before.
I just want to share something, Fred, because I know you probably have something right here, but real quick before I forget, because that's how my brain works, is that I realized when I started the podcast, and not beautiful. I wish I could have gone to 9 different. I mean, I love your story. I wish I had the opportunity because I could do it, as you said. I was going to the living rooms or offices through Zoom to all these other countries and talking to people. And what you realize is, right, we do so many things very hyper focused and local within and we don't realize there's an entire world out there that we can learn from and really learn from, and vice versa. We can teach them too. The podcast opened that door, and it's incredible just to know that, what you could, a nonprofit can raise money that's in New Jersey from someone all the way in some other country or some other state on the other side of the country, whatever it may be. You don't always have to stay so hyper focused, but I do understand what you're saying about how when you do transplant yourself somewhere else, how it can actually change that community as well. So I'm thank you for sharing that, because I've really never thought of it that way. Fred, I know you've got stuff. I know it.
Oh, so 15 years old, you're standing in the middle of this river.
Mhm.
And you think about a compass. However you move that compass, that needle just always goes to true north, and you can't fight it.
Right.
What compass? So you're in that river, you had that experience. What did that experience do for you that has your compass needle always going in your true north now? What was that?
Mhm.
Are you still in that trajectory of, I want to do this, but I can't fight it. It's coming here. Was there an epiphany? Because you have done remarkable things, obviously, since that part Can you share some of the thoughts about that?
Yeah, thank you, Fred, for the question. And for those who don't know what river he's talking about, part of my origin story is on that trip in Honduras. I was standing in a river with children, where I got to speak because I was the only person in our group that had any Spanish. I had high school Spanish at the time. I was the only person that could speak directly to those children and hear directly from the people living in Honduras what their experience was like. And so when you ask me about the True North, I think it's kind of, there's a two-part answer to that. One would be, I think that the through line that I've carried from that moment is just my desire to be able to speak and hear directly from people most impacted. I don't want a translator. I don't want to hear from some report. I want to be the ones, talking to the people on the ground. I want to be the one that is, making sure that we're hearing from the people directly. So that's, and it's always been a tension of mine as I grow in leadership, kind of losing that direct engagement has always been a tension for me. And I think the other piece is in that moment, and that continues to drive me, is I've always felt called to a higher purpose. I think we all are here for something bigger than ourselves. And so just constantly striving to actually see that through. And I think it evolves throughout our life based on what skills and experiences and community we have in that moment. But I think constantly checking in with, okay, there's a reason I'm having this moment, this experience. There's something that I'm being called to do with this that maybe I hadn't thought of when I first, decided to take Spanish in 8th grade.
Yeah, well, I believe there's no coincidences. Wow.
No, life's about opportunities, right? And it's all those things that come up are opportunities as long as you see them that way. Tell us a little bit about what you're working on currently. Where are you today? What is a really main focus for you? And how in the world can we potentially maybe help you as well?
Thank you. Well, so as the founder and CEO of Illustra Impact, I'm in a space of exploring both what would it look like to take what I've learned through these last 5 years and apply it internally to an organization, spending time aligning stakeholders, building ecosystems, and trying to kind of address complex challenges together. So something greater than any one person, one department, one organization can do on their own. Um, and I'm still consulting, so trying to do that work, more so in long-term engagements. In fact, that is one of the ways that Fred and I worked together, is one of the more meaningful engagements I've done in my consulting career, which is, I got to work with the Food Bank of South Jersey for 4 years on the collective impact model around food security. And so kind of having those long-term relationships, long-term work together is really what I value. And I think the other way that folks are engaging with me right now is, and it kind of started out, this is another one of those things where I didn't set out to do this, but 5 years later, here we are. I organize a solopreneur circle. So we are about 75 people that are solo founders, independent consultants, and contractors with an impact focus, all with different functional skill sets. And all who kind of come from this space of, having done either nonprofit or for-profit work, but want to contribute, but maybe haven't all done the business side of things. So we're kind of traveling this journey together, sharing what we're learning, supporting each other, and treating each other as associates in terms of building the right teams for the right projects. And after 5 years of doing that, I'm also really observing kind of the future of work. And the fact that as AI comes into play and more people are experiencing layoffs, as more folks are seeking more autonomy and agency over their careers, there are a lot more people moving into this solopreneurship space. But the career infrastructure is really designed around the employee. There's not unemployment benefits for founders. There are not really group healthcare benefits for individuals. We're all buying expensive marketplace things, or maybe going without healthcare. FMLA isn't a thing. You have to negotiate leave with your clients. So there's just a lot of, there's kind of a lack of ecosystem infrastructure, resources, and policies to support solopreneurship, even though I think it is the future. So I'm kind of mulling around some ideas with some fellow solopreneurs about how we might be able to understand that better and really start to address some of the lack of what's needed for the future of this work.
Well, that's pretty cool, but we're both of us are just a phone call away because we're kind of solo as well. Well, I have me, myself, and we're a heck of a team, and I have a holiday party every year. But anyway, that's a whole different story.
Exactly.
Me and Chat GPT are working right together.
Claude is currently working in the background for me.
It's cloudy, but it has nothing to do with the weather. I mean, it's Whitney, if I may, the meeting you the last week of February of 2020, and this is where I saw your magic. You gathered leaders from the Camden community, the greater Camden community of South Jersey, and you just started to ask questions. And it was so engaging. And next thing I know, you and your team there, we were able to frame out a platform, if you will, and so exciting. And then we shut down, 3 weeks later. But you never left that. And I remember you calling me as things were starting to somewhat get, as normal as they were normal back then. And you picked up right from where that group left off. And moving forward 4 years, I saw you in action, connecting leaders to those who are living experience or the experts of the experience, and bringing all different levels of organizations, individuals together to make a difference. And I remember, I know we found you, and during your worldly journeys, I think we were able to get you to come back to America, and you again came to South Jersey, and this is we were starting to meet in person. And the change that you brought with these leaders, the way you organized and just had everything working, it took it to a different level because then you were able to step back and all the things that were put in motion happened. And even it left that group of 28 to 30 different nonprofits, the collective, where the county adopted that whole program and it just took it to the next level. And so, just unbelievable work. But my question with all of that, oh, you are welcome. And it's just such an honor and pleasure to work with you. And just, I ended up just being in the audience looking into all this but the team that my colleagues that you worked with at the food bank, whenever it's like E.F. Hutton, when someone's in a hall and they hear Whitney's coming or what, is she going to be here? We got to get a selfie with Whitney. At least that was me.
I'm good at that. Yeah.
But here's my question with all of that and your experiences. What's the difference between creating change for people and creating change with people?
Great question. I also think, Fred, you're a master at this. So I'd love to hear any additions you have on what I share. But I am a firm believer that when we make change for, we are less likely to see it actually adopted and implemented than when we make change with people. And I understand why the change for often happens because there tends to be a sense of urgency and even eagerness to be of help and assistance. However, and maybe they don't have patience or capacity to do the long work of including people. However, I've seen a couple of times where when we did that in community organizing efforts, that they'd stand up a pilot and nobody would come. That whole like build it and they will come. Nobody comes, and it's a waste of resources. And it was a simple correction is asking the people who like this example I'm thinking of was, we had done this listening effort in the Northgate 2 towers and learned that a lot of the biggest challenge they had around health equity centered around transportation. And there were some eager, well-intentioned leaders who were like, oh, we'll just put a, clinic in the main floor of the tower. But the residents, when we started asking, why is no one going? It was like, I like my doctor. I don't want to have to change doctors to be able for that doctor to bill insurance. I just want to have somebody that I can come to, to check if I should go to my doctor or, if I should go to the hospital, or I really just wanted transportation that worked to get me to my doctor. And so then when we got down to it, we were like, well, what's wrong with the transportation that exists? The real challenge that residents were having was around Medicaid transportation in those services. But the solution that was brought to them was a clinic in their building. And so that is an example to me of when you do change for, usually well-intentioned, but often you're not going to get the results. It's not going to last. That clinic didn't last very long. But when you take the time to figure out what it actually is the challenge and what folks actually want to see solved, still, it took time. We did change the Medicaid contract with the state, but it did take a lot longer. So
it is awesome.
Yeah.
And people are people, humans behavior is human behavior. And through your work and your journey, that is consistent throughout the world. Working with versus working for.
Yeah. Yeah, you probably saw this often with food pantries and distributions as well.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. But anyway, thanks for that was great work. And we were lucky to have you and just help lead all of that. And so thanks for
Beautiful. I don't even need to be here. The two of you
Oh,
should be on this one. You got this great history, and I love it. And can feel the connection. And that is, everything is rooted in connection. And that's the thing about it, right? The buy-in, Whitney, from when you have things where you're creating it as a community together, right? The buy-in is there, and you can feel and sense that. In a world where trust drives decisions and relationships matter more than transactions, disconnection is something businesses simply cannot afford. I'm Jody Hope Grinwald, a leadership and connection strategist, and my work is different because I don't offer just a single framework or surface level fix. I bring an entire ecosystem built on connection with me. I work across leadership, career transition, teams, and client relationships, helping organizations rebuild trust where it may be strained and design their work so disconnection doesn't happen in the first place. Because when one link is off, it affects everything, and sustainable growth depends on keeping those connections strong. To learn more or inquire about me speaking at any of your events, reach out to me at Jody, Jodi, at todayisthedayliveit.com. Through your travels, can you give us an example of anything that you've done with, the people that you've been connected to in the building piece together? Give us an example of something related to that.
Like when I was abroad, if I built something.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's a good question. I think one of the places where, obviously being in Colombia for 9 months of that time, is where I had the most opportunity to really do that. And I'm thinking of a couple of pretty cool groups that I would want to highlight in that respect. I really just came alongside. They were kind of already building things. I just wanted to support or draw attention to, do what I could to amplify. And one is this incredible woman, Andrea, who had been adopted out of Colombia into the Netherlands. And when she became 19, was a social worker, started to learn about her own family history and that her mother had been a victim of domestic violence. She shares her story publicly, and so I encourage you to actually hear this from her. But she came back then to Colombia with the intention of supporting women in feeling empowered to leave domestic violence situations and to have essentially the systems and the skills to do so. And so, she started out and then COVID hit. And so her plan shifted, but, she went from delivering meals to children and families in this very remote village. And then when I met her, she had partnered with a boxer. They were teaching boxing to girls and women, and they had children to 70-year-olds. And so, I had the privilege of traveling up to this neighborhood and took a boxing class with the students and got to support as they then evolved, and they were teaching English classes and they were teaching entrepreneurship to women by creating bracelets and jewelry that could be sold. So, the way that I offered to support them was let me be a distributor in the US. I took 20 bracelets with me back to the US and promoted the story and tried to really find opportunities to continue to find them buyers. That I am not a retail salesperson. That is not my gift. So we learned that.
Well, apparently, I didn't get a bracelet when you came back. We didn't have an opportunity.
I still have one. If you want, I'll send you both too. But Andrea is just, so now, the most that I'm able to do, but really do whenever I can, is promote what she's doing. And it's called Mi Barrio, Mi Sueño. Really an incredible organization based in Colombia. And so continue to try to support her in whatever way I can.
With all that, where did radical hospitality come in? I mean, just this story, I'm curious, but something with this story hits that your term of radical hospitality from your worldly travels.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it started from my childhood. My parents, still to this day, are the most radically hospitable people that I have met. One of my best friends from Colombia, They had never met her. She was doing something in Omaha, Nebraska. They live outside of Lincoln, Nebraska. They invited her. She stayed the night at their house, had a meal with them, went through my childhood photos in their home. They are, when we were growing up, they were the house where all of the kids came on Friday nights. My parents hosted everybody. Truly, I can't tell you how many of my friends, treat them as second parents, and how many of their kids think of my parents as their grandparents. So it was really the home that I grew up in that taught me that.
And you took that, because it sounds with this individual that you met, the sense of that radical hospitality came out.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great connection, Fred, because actually that radical hospitality, I have experienced it more being in other countries than I have in the United States. And I see you both nodding. It must be a common experience.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, one of my experiences was like 3 weeks in, and I was in her home, around this table sharing a meal. I was I reached out to a farmer to see if I could visit his coffee farm. He had me and my friends in his home eating fresh made cheese that his wife had made, and then showing us around his farm. Like, people were just incredible in terms of radical hospitality. And so, yeah, I've definitely been inspired by how I've been hosted and welcomed in other spaces to want to extend that same welcome to others.
Yeah.
Do you think that we have a fear of being, not me, because I'm like you, that radical hospitality. I love the term, absolutely love the term. And that's how I was brought up as well, is that radical hospitality. But do you think that one of the reasons that Fred and I were shaking our head as you were saying that is because of the fact that there's a fear around rejection if you're radically hospitable? Is there a fear of being, in some way being hurt by being, what do you think our issue is around that topic?
I'd love for you all's perspective on this too. My theory is we have moved away from reciprocity and towards more transactional relationships.
Wow.
I think that we've lost this idea of pay it forward, do it because it's the right thing to do, love on the people around you without expectation of anything in return, knowing that the universe, God, your other community will return it to you in some other way. We're all here to care for one another. We've gotten now to the point of, if you ask your friend to watch a dog, should you pay them? If someone takes you to the airport, should you give them gas money? If you're, staying with someone overnight, should you pay for dinner out? There's just, and not that there's anything wrong with, helping share the cost burden, but I actually got scolded by friends in Colombia when I tried to essentially pay for dinners, pay for some, they're like, we are hosting you, accept it, receive it. So yeah, I'd be curious what your thoughts are on that idea of whether it's fear or why people are less likely to do the radical hospitality.
Yeah, for me, quickly, I believe we're still seeing a huge jump since COVID in transactional relationships. And I believe we're just at the tip of what COVID has done to humanity. Just the eighth graders back then, how are they, or how are they surviving, sophomore in college or junior, being at a campus. I mean, and even just adults that had to live through that. So I don't know if that's part of the cloud that's still over us that people unfortunately have accepted to, which is unhealthy. And those like, Haiti. I don't just you go to Haiti, everyone's got barbed wire and fences and cement walls around their homes, right? Have we created this ghost wall? Anyway, that's my quick answer. Is I'm not sure, how long before we're going to get over the fact that what COVID has done to our world.
So, it's interesting. I feel that way. I feel like there's a couple of things that are going on, and I take a look at, the generation, like my children's age, and what I have seen is this, right? We look at that and they say they want us to have the boundary of making sure to take time for ourselves and they, right? But there's also the mindset, and there really is, and you know where I'm going, Whitney, because you're shaking your head. There's the mindset, okay, so if I help with your nonprofit work, so and I got to take off a day of work, will you reimburse me? If I'm going to do that, there's this feeling, right? If I'm going to give of this, I expect that. I think there's an expectation piece. I don't know if it's came after COVID. I don't know when it really began. I haven't done the research on it. But I think growing up, when we were asked to do something and be supportive, or somebody was coming over, we paid for dinner and there was no expectation that they would offer even. And if they didn't, we didn't judge that they didn't. There's this judgment piece in there too now. And that's where I feel connection is totally fragmented with people. And I think it's great to be, you have to be selfish in some way, but we don't have I think expectation is something that I don't know where it came from, but there is this piece that I don't want to say it's generational, because I hate that when I think it's individual, but I do think growing up in my generation, for the most part, if I go out with if a friend comes over, my expectation is never that they're going to pay for dinner because they're staying at my house. That never happens. So this transactional part, this connection, that's why I have a platform called Connection is the Work, because it is. And connection has become the work. And instead of it's not as easy and as simple as it used to be, because it's all
Yeah.
transactional now. So I don't know what you guys feel about that. If you have anything else to add to that.
Just emotional intelligence, and again, what I can relate, social intelligence is part of the 5 pillars of emotional intelligence, and our humanity has lost a part of social since COVID, and it's going to take a lot of work of leaders, individuals, gifted, people like you and others that are in our circle to get past that. So it's there's much work to do, a lot of damage.
I think a lot of talking, I think we don't talk enough about it maybe. And I think that's the key too, is like, we all know it's happening, but it's kind of like we don't speak enough about it. Or maybe, I don't know, there also is a very strong stance with a line in the sand that this is the way it's, we're not going to do it unless we're going to get, reciprocity for what we're doing. Whitney, what are your thoughts? Any extended thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, I mean, listening to both of you, it kind of makes me see what feels like a bit of a pendulum swing. I do think there was, there are cases and an era where we gave so much of ourselves that a lot of people, lost themselves, didn't know their own needs, didn't have weren't taking care of themselves well enough to even pour out of their own cup. The whole movement towards boundaries and whatnot. I think there was a need that spurred that, but I think we've kind of moved to this overcorrection of, I'm not going to give unless I'm getting something in return. I want to make it clear to you what I'm making a concession on to do this thing, And so I think that, to your point or your question earlier around fear, like I think there is a little bit of a fear around, and will I be taken advantage of? If I give this, will it become an expectation the next time? So yeah, there's something we're still navigating in society from some major, shared experiences, and also just some shifts in generations.
One last quick to that. There are a lot of good things that came out of, what COVID presented. And one of the good things is trust. So I know my children, my adult children, their circle of friends, there's a trust level. Yeah, I got this meal, and don't worry, I'll Venmo. And a day later, 2 days later, no one's worried about it. They're going to somehow bing, they're going to get the Venmo, for whatever how they, the rules of engagement that they had when they go out. But anyway, so there is some trust that has been built around there. But this is all
That's
about you,
true.
Whitney. I can't. I
So
told Whitney this was going to go by fast. I have one or two other
go
questions,
ahead.
but
Go
I'm
ahead.
not.
I'm going to let you roll, and then I've got one or two. So go right ahead.
All right. Well, one you had a piece that came out that you put some work into, and your family background. Would you like to talk about before I say the title of this piece that came out? If this is a place to talk about that.
Are you talking about the piece that's still in draft format? I'm
Yes.
happy. Yeah, we
Yes.
can talk about it. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah.
The sacred between us. Can you
Mhm.
share this? I believe it's a calling, and you have a lot to share, and it's with purpose. So go ahead.
Yeah, so the sacred between us is daily spiritual reflections on shared spiritual truths across faith traditions. And it really is something that I was longing for the last couple of years and just couldn't find quite what I was looking for out in, what existed. And so partnered with my artificial intelligence to give it some formats and instructions to help me at least just start something for myself. I really just wanted a morning reflection that would kind of force me to explore character development rooted in spiritual truths. And so that, my background, I was a faith-based community organizer where we worked across faith traditions. And in order to do that, you really have to find common ground across Muslim, Jewish, all denominations of Christianity, Baha'i. Um, so I knew they existed. I knew we had organized people around them. And so this has really been a spiritual journey for myself to kind of identify what are those rooted, principles and core beliefs. And then, the format I'm using is I want to see a, focus for a week, kind of like when I was in church. I grew up in the church. Um, there was a weekly sermon, and so there was a kind of a focus for the week. So there's a topic for the week, and then each day there's a different quote from various faith traditions and a reflection, and then a couple of character development questions. So I'm currently in the process of fact checking my AI, and then it spurred me to purchase a lot of different sacred texts. So I now own a Quran and a Torah and I'm messing it up, but essentially the yoga traditions, sutras, and so yeah, I'm in the process of kind of fact checking and exploring the validity of my hypothesis. And once I feel like it is close enough, it won't be perfect, but close enough to share with the world, I do plan to make it available to others.
That
Can't
is
wait.
so cool. That's all. I mean, I can't wait. That's why I said, Jody, episode 1, 2, 3. I mean, there's so
Oh,
much.
yeah.
Un Well, good luck with that, because I know we had a little conversation, and I saw that you posted something around there, so that's wonderful. You're going to make it happen. So
Yeah.
I'm going to stop for right now. This is your show, Jody.
No, you're doing great. And I'm excited about it. And I think if I'm not mistaken, you had posted something, and I can't quote you verbatim, that you didn't think that it was going to be for you. And then it became, when you started talking about it with others, it became that other people, like, I know for me, I love it. I can't wait. Because I think that's the key, is like you have each week, like you said, is that piece, and then every day something else. I love that. Takes you on a journey.
Mhm. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it was something I literally self-published a paper version so that I wasn't staring at my screen making the edits. And when I published, it was cheaper to print 5 copies instead of one. And so I sent it to my mom and I sent it to a friend, and my mom's been sharing it with her friends. And so now she's like, I have so and so and so and so want to know when they can buy it. And now I
Oh,
actually
awesome.
See?
so,
See? And we'll promote it here too. So, I
yeah.
mean, we have 135 countries that download. So hopefully people from all over will be, buying this from you, and you'll be inspiring so many people, more people than you already are. So you're already on that journey. Um, what is it that we haven't shared today that you really want to make sure that the listeners hear from you?
I think something I haven't yet shared that is so vital to me getting to do the kind of work that I get to do is the importance of leadership, um, like Fred's, like I've been talking with the leaders at Policy Link, um, leaders at the Foundation for Healthy St. Pete, but finding leaders who are willing to lay down their ego, um, and who are willing to commit to long-term action, knowing that they might not even be here when, we see the outcomes that we set out to do. I think, unfortunately, in today's society, our incentive structures are set to really incentivize short-term wins, short-term action, and it takes leaders who don't care if they get reelected, don't care if they get voted out of their seat as the CEO by their board. Obviously care a little bit, but like when I met Fred and I asked the group, if we were to work together for another 10 years on something related to what we've been working on around food, what would it be? And Fred was like, put me on a business. I don't want people standing in line for food. Like the head of a food bank is telling me, help me not have people asking for food. Like that takes humility, that takes long-term vision and leadership. I'm really excited about what Policy Link is doing because they are taking a proactive stance to creating a vision for this country, in the midst of a scary time when it's easy to just be fighting and defending left and right. They're really trying to bring people together around a vision that inspires us towards a future together. So I think that is, it's a lot harder for me to align people around a shared strategy, around us, executing around a shared vision, if we have leaders who are, siloed and trying to make a name for themselves and trying to get their pot of their pie or their part of the pie. So I think that I'm just grateful for leadership and lift up Fred as an incredible example. And Jody, I haven't had as much time to get to know you, but I'm sure that you two are working together, and I should assume you have similar leadership qualities.
I hope so. The two of us work well
Absolutely.
together. I'm grateful for Fred, that's for sure.
Thank you, Whitney.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's a great. I know. I told Whitney. What did I tell you earlier today?
It's going to go fast.
Unfortunately, it's going to go fast. So I know Jody's got a beautiful wrap up, but I have one more question, and then I could be here all day. So I have to read this because I want to make sure I get the question right. If the young woman standing in the river in Honduras could see you today, what do you think she would be most proud of, and where do you think she'd encourage you to go next?
Mm.
Ooh, just an easy one to end on. That's great. Honestly, I think she would be most proud of my early career, where, I mean, I say we because, I'm talking to little Whitney, but we were driving to detention centers and helping children see their fathers and organizing campaigns to release people from detention who had been unfairly detained and fighting for pathways for people who just wanted a better life to have a pathway here in the United States. So, I think she'd be really proud of how I worked to try to make it possible for me to host those friends from Honduras in the United States one day. Um, I think she would tell me to keep going in uh, using my voice. I think I've spent a lot of my career intentionally preparing and supporting others in being leaders in using their voice to testify, to, make public comment, to be in the media, to be the heads of organizations that got funded. And I feel like she's telling me it's time to use my voice for the same reason.
Well, you certainly have a gift. And if that 15-year-old in that river has your compass pointing where it should be going, I believe you're going.
Thank you.
And we need it more than ever now, that's for sure, right? The voices and the advocacy, and that could have been a whole other conversation. Maybe we'll save that for part 2, because I think that would be a very good conversation as well.
Absolutely. Excited to do that.
Anything else, Whitney? Oh, and I'll say anything else, and also add where people can learn more about you.
Oh, sure. So my website is www.illustra with 2 L's impact.com. Or you can find me on LinkedIn, Whitney Bookman. Yeah, that's it for me. I really have enjoyed this conversation, and I wish I had more time to get to hear your You all had such great questions. I really wish I could just throw them back at you the whole time. So,
well,
Whitney interview us.
One quick thing, because she always has a beautiful wrap-up question at the end, which I just love to hear the answers. But now you're an official part of the Changemaker community, and with that comes, unfortunately, obligations.
Oh, I love it. What's the term with something that comes great responsibility?
Just help connect the communities around because there is an annual international conference that we've had. And so there's, I mean, gosh, we're always looking for a great panel and speakers, and you're here. But the other thing is you're a change maker, you get to invite someone that you may feel is making an impact, and then you get to co-host. So awesome. You can be on this end, but you got a lot of co-hosting to do, because I'm going to get this hat before anyone else. But anyway.
I'll race you for it.
Yes. All right.
You kind of covered my question there, Fred, when, because I was going to ask, if you knew then what you know now, what would that be? And I don't know if your answer is any different than when he talked about you talking to your younger self.
Yeah, one more time, Jody.
If you knew then what you know now, what would that be? What would you want to tell yourself?
Yeah. I think I would tell myself that don't stop having crazy ideas. Just know they will take longer to achieve than you would hope.
Don't stop having crazy ideas. That's a bumper sticker.
Oh, yeah.
Don't stop having. That is awesome.
And you said locally rooted, globally
minded.
And I have a feeling you came up with the title without even knowing it of this actual episode, because I always title our episodes. But I love, if you're okay, I'm saying this out loud to everybody to hear. Locally rooted, globally minded, to me sounds like such a great title for this episode. So thank you.
My pleasure.
Without me having to even come up with it, it was right there for me. So I appreciate that. Whitney, I hope this is just the beginning, as Fred said. Once you're part of Changemakers, those who want to stay a part of it, there's lots of ways to do that. And if you have people overseas that want to be a part of Changemakers and want to come on and share their stories, I welcome that. You can co-host, which would be amazing. I think it would be a great co-host duo.
And the other thing too, Jody, what you have done in this connection, and your solopreneurs, did I say that correctly? And you have that circle of 75. Yeah. So Jody's people she has connected through the Changemakers they have worked with each other. They have had working relationship contracts with each other, supporting each other. So there's this whole other beautiful network out there of like heart-minded people wanting to make a difference and supporting each other, even without Jody knowing. And the connections in the back of your book, there's this map from New Jersey all over the world of these connections. So, yeah, this is wonderful, and I'm so happy that you agreed to do this, because it's
Thanks, Whitney.
great pleasure.
Oh, it was my pleasure. Thank you for the invitation. It was a very fast but fun hour.
And like you said, it goes very fast. And Fred, thank you. You're working your way to the hat. You're getting there. Just a few more. Almost there. I know that we have a couple more. Michelle, I want to bring Michelle on, so we got to have you co-host with Michelle too. So
Yeah, but if I invite Whitney 3 more times, does that count? Or does that have to be
that's
someone new? We got to look at the rule
sure.
book.
There
Yeah,
you go.
exactly. Let me break out the best practices.
Oh my God.
Well, I'm going to say what I say at the end of every single podcast episode, and that is today's the day. You cannot go back to yesterday, and you do not yet own tomorrow. So what small or large steps are you going to take today to get yourself closer to your goals? Thank you to Fred and to Whitney. Fred, we didn't tell everybody where they could find you. Where can people find you?
Fred Wozniak and humanicsconsulting.com, or Outdoors with Papa and any of the social handles, and LinkedIn is a good connection for all.
Awesome.
Thank you.
And thank
Jody.
you. Thank you guys, and have a great
Thank
week,
you.
everyone. Bye.